My name is Amanda Strickler, and this is my EDL 850 case summary of school law. For the summary of this case, Mr. Sample is a principal in a small rural K-8 district. He is originally an outsider to the community and has tried to do his best with building relations to fit in. Being from a small rural community, I know that this task can sometimes seem daunting. And the fact that he has built positive relationships is a step in the right direction with the original community members of that small district. The school has two major fundraisers per year to help support the district financially. They don't get a lot of funds. Either way, well, I should say the funds mostly come from these two fundraising activities. It's been agreed upon that the fundraiser be used to purchase new software for students to use in the computer lab, and that is what they have done. Teachers were frequently visiting the computer lab to use a new purchase software as they found it very beneficial, and the library media specialist decided to take it upon her own and copy the software because teachers were using it like crazy and distribute to the teachers so that they had their own copies for each student. Another teacher felt very uncomfortable about the illegal copy and told the principal, Mr. Sample, and Mr. Sample went and talked to the library media specialist about this and asked for all copies back. In Miss Lynn's defense, I do believe she was doing what she thought was best for the kids and their future success. She was also trying to save the school's resources financially, as they don't have a lot of money to spend. Yet she was still in violation of committing copyright, whether she knew that or not. Her coworker is very concerned about her illegal copying of the software and was one of the only teachers that refused to accept the illegal copies when Miss Lynn presented that to teachers. This teacher that expressed concern went and told Mr. Sample, and then Mr. Sample, the principal, went and talked to Miss Lynn. The copies of the software were made in the school library, and Miss Lynn had help from the PTA president, as, again, they thought they were doing everybody a favor and saving valuable money or dollars that could be put elsewhere. And evidently at least the PTA president, so the PTA is on board with all the copies, as it will save a lot of money, and help the children with their education through technology. For copyright laws, whether they were aware or not aware of them, but copyright laws are set in place for instances just like that. They protect from unauthorized use or duplication of their original creative's work. There would be a lot of people that received little compensation if there wasn't a copyright. You would make it once and then everybody would steal it from you. Violators can be punished with heavy fines or jail time. There is a fair use doctrine under the educational purpose, but that is determined by purpose, nature, amount, and effect on what that is being used for education. However, I do not believe this would fall under the fair use doctrine at all, because Miss Lynn is copying purchase materials, so she doesn't have to purchase more to help distribute to others. The legal or ethical issues here, there's a lot of unknowns, but I guess we can make assumptions. For example, was there a policy put in place, or did she know about copyright at all? So if there was a policy put in place and she knew about copyright, she could be in breach of her contract, which would not be good and could into disciplinary action or maybe even termination. But whether she is meaning to or not, Miss Lynn is essentially stealing the work from the original owner. And as mentioned before, the copyright laws violations, a hefty fine of $150,000 or more or less, depending on what the courts deem and subject to jail time if you got caught. And by bringing in the stakeholders in the community, and now Mr. Sample knows, there's a lot of things at stake with that. Even though Miss Lynn had good intentions, this is still not ethically right, and I believe it's Mr. Sample's duty to set a positive example and know that this is not acceptable. And then doing what's right is always the best policy. Everyone may not see eye to eye on that, but if you do what's right in the long run, it'll definitely be beneficial. The relevant facts in this case, the people involved would be the principal, Mr. Sample, the media specialist, Miss Lynn, the teacher who was concerned about copyright laws, Mr. Brandon, the PTA president, Miss Evans, who came in and helped the library media specialist make these illegal copies, the students at St. Regis, and the teachers at St. Regis, because they will all be affected. The place happened at St. Regis, a small rural K-8 school, 25 miles from the nearest city, and again, very rural and not a whole lot of people there. The program, K-8, 2 teachers per grade, 2 SPED teachers in the whole district, and the PTA financially supports school needs when they need them. Synthesizing the whole case and down to one sentence, I do believe Miss Lynn thinks she's doing what's best for students that are from a small, financially strained district by copying software so it can be available to everyone, while not realizing that she is in violation of copyright laws. She is trying to do what's best for them and their education needs by saving dollars. However, through this form, she is committing an illegal act. Review and prioritizing. Mr. Sample's put in a sticky situation because the situation and decision, depending on what he chooses, could be damaging to the community and or Mr. Sample. The community might not agree, think that who's going to know, no one's going to know, we're very rural, who's going to catch us, and they may not agree with Mr. Sample saying, no, we can't do this. And then if he does nothing, that could also very well hurt the district and community by getting caught through repercussions of some stakeholders, teachers, and himself. Stripping the CDs could cause strife among teachers and stakeholders. He could handle this through consulting with other members of the PTA on how they could raise more funds to support more software purchases. Knowing that it's worked so well, maybe they could come up with a new plan of could we have a third fundraiser just for this. I also believe he should loop the superintendent in on the situation, not handle this situation entirely by himself. And then he needs to communicate with Miss Lynn on the ethics behind this and come up with a solution on how to fix the situation the best way possible. Some options that I came up with. Option number 1, Mr. Sample could choose to look the other way as he believes Miss Lynn has good intentions, and evidently stakeholders were on board because they helped her do it. So act like nothing happened and look the other way. Option 2, explain to Miss Lynn that she cannot do this as it is a violation of copyright laws, but choose to leave what she has already done in place, saying, hey, we can't do this, but I'm not going to take away what we've already done. The third option, address the issue with Miss Lynn and explain to her why she can't do this, collect all legally downloaded copies for school-level governance. And then 4, take necessary disciplinary actions against Miss Lynn as she did break the law in some form. Pros and cons to my options. I had option 1. The pros would be all teachers would get to keep the CDs, and the school could save money and use it on other resources. The negatives, if caught, major fines could be assessed, and ethically the wrong thing to do. Option 2, all teachers would get to keep the CDs. The issue was addressed as not to do it again, but again, the students are getting the benefits out of this and still using the CD. And then a negative, setting low standards for others in the community and teachers as well. Option 3, explaining the why to Miss Lynn, why she can't do it, why it was wrong, why we have to take the CDs. and then it shows, if you were to get caught, it still shows that there was something being done about this. And the negatives, teachers do not get to use Miss Lynn's copies for their students, and school doesn't get to save any money on these. Option 4, which I feel is a bit extreme in this case, setting the bar high for no tolerance policy and illegal action. But the negative thing is, I do believe that's probably not what's in the best interest of the school or the kids. What would I do? I would, after I was informed about the illegal downloading, I'd want to check it out for myself and get firsthand information. I would go talk to Miss Lynn. Secondly, I would ask her to collect all the illegal copies back and tell her that she cannot distribute any more. Third, I would contact my superintendent and inform him of what's happening. I would also ask for his advice and see what he has to say about the situation. Fourth, I would call the PTA president who helped Miss Lynn and explain why we can't allow this and the penalty for copyright laws. I would want to maybe come up with another solution with her to help raise the funds necessary to buy more of these software copies, as they are very beneficial for the students. And then sixth, I'd want to meet with her and meet with Miss Lynn and explain the same thing I did to the PTA president. And seventh, if there were no policies in place previously, because we are not aware of that, I would make sure that the school came up with specific policies regarding copyright, and that the entire staff be informed of this, because the teacher that felt uncomfortable was a teacher that wasn't originally from the district and another outsider. So maybe that community isn't aware of how that works, or the penalties, or if that's a thing that applies to education at all. My policies, I feel like this is a big one because we don't know if the school has any policies in place about copyright. So does the school have a copyright law posted? Do the teachers know about it? Or have they had any training in copyright laws? If no policies existed previously dealing with the issue of copyright, the district needs to make one. Get together with your school board or superintendent or stakeholders and come up with a legal policy, or lawyer. You could easily get them involved with making that. Teachers need to receive training and be provided examples on what is acceptable and unacceptable to the copyright laws in education. And then maybe even making a disciplinary actions or step needed if this continues, or just if it happens again. And then again, implementing policies and regulations to promote student and adult success and well-being. This, I do believe this isn't, having a district policy is in the best interest, so that everybody can be on the same page and they know the consequences can be faced for their actions, whether the dealing with not just local consequences, but high court consequences as well. Again, I don't feel like there was any malicious intent here, but it is a very case that it is a very reasonable case that we could be presented with later on. And so I think this is a good case study to get our brains thinking on how we would handle this and what to do in this situation. Thank you.